Welcome back, investigators, to another cynically awesome in-depth look. Today, we're going to be looking at the Arkham Horror Novellas. Currently, there are 5 Arkham Horror Novellas, and each of them brings in some new cards for the Arkham Horror, the card game. Ugh, that's a weird one to say. But what are they, and are they worth it? That's what we're here to figure out. For those of you who don't know, these are novellas, which means they're pretty light novels, and they're very light. You can actually get through one of these books in, say, a few hours of an afternoon from start to finish. And each of these will follow one of the investigators that you might be familiar with from the Arkham Horror series. Now, I'm not going to give a synopsis for every single book, but here is how they all sort of play out. Each of these books are origin stories of how this character wound up in the Arkham Horror mythos and their motivations, and gives them a bit more background as to why they are the character they are, besides the flavor text that you might read on any character bios on a card. So let's just take, for example, here we have Jenny Barnes. When you get this, it'll be in a shrink wrap, and at the back of the shrink wrap there'll be a plastic bag that has some cards in it. The cards that you'll get is a new alternate art card, which of course matches the cover there. And you'll get some new cards that are specific to that character. And of course, you'll get a mini art card that resembles the art card here. Now, even though they're alternative arts, they are exactly the same as the original card. So this here, Jenny Barnes, the text, front and back, is exactly the same as the one from the base game. The only difference is the art. And be that as it may, you can't then have 2 Jenny Barnes decks built simultaneously with you and a friend going through one scenario, because Jenny Barnes still has the asterisk here, which means she's unique, which means you can't have more than one running around. That's how it is. But what you get are these 2 cards. How do these work? Well, as you can see here, because this on the back, the deck building requirements still refer to her twin 45s and her searching for Izzy card, doesn't mention these 2 cards. So what are these? These are replacement cards. The way that they work, you can see here, Jenny Barnes deck only, which means that these cards can only replace the cards referred to on the back of here. And when you build this card, or rather when you build this character deck, you have to decide, are you going to take her original cards that are on the back here, or are you going to take the new cards? You have to take all of the new cards or all of the old cards. You can't say, oh, I want to take this one, but then I want to take the old bad card. You have to pick both of one set, or you can take both of both sets. That's how the replacement mechanic works. So before we actually go into talking about these cards, because otherwise there isn't much to talk about, how do these books play out? As I said, they're all origin stories, which means if you're looking for some sort of conclusion to this character's story, you're not going to get it. It's going to be their origin. Jenny Barnes, for example, if you know her from the core game, she's looking for her sister. She's searching for Izzy, as you can see on the back of her card, searching for Izzy weakness. And she's got twin 45s. In this story, you find out why she's searching for Izzy. Where has she gone? Where is the last place that she's been? And it even talks about her twin 45s, which is actually an interesting way that that's introduced. I didn't expect the story to bring that up. I thought it was just, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's an interesting origin story. And then with these cards, right, these 2 new cards, these cards have significance in that story as well. And so you learn, why is this green man medallion of any significance? What is the sacrificial beast? All of that is in this story. And the story itself, I don't know whether or not to say that it's Arkham Horror-esque, because to me, Arkham Horror-esque means more in line with the very unsettling, very mysterious writings of Lovecraft. A lot of his short stories were very eerie, very mysterious, and could almost be interpreted as un-alien for some of them. And that's Lovecraft to me. Whereas this is very much more Hollywood Lovecraft, where, you do the mystery, you solve the clues, you meet the people, you have interesting interactions and solve the day. Shoot the monster, shoot bang bang until it's dead. And then, look to the future of, but did we really do it? That's what these are. And they're fun, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're like me and you want like true Lovecraft, it's probably not going to be here. But if you actually think these characters are interesting and you want to know more about them in a very light read, these books could be down your alley. The only problem is these books are 1, hard to find, and 2, expensive, in my opinion. Each of these books here retail for, I believe, $15, although it doesn't say here on the back. But as I'm told, apparently that's standard for a light novel hardback. But, I mean, that's still pretty steep in my opinion, especially since the cards that you get also, I mean, they're nice to haves, but are they worth it? Let's take a look. So, as I said, I'm not going to go into the synopsises here. You've got one for Jenny Barnes, you've got one for Roland Banks, you've got one for, what's her name, Carolyn Fern, you've got this dude who I have no idea who he is, and then you have this dude. Books aside, let's actually talk about the cards. Usually in the in-depth looks, I don't talk about the cards because that's not that important. But let's actually look at the cards. Sacrificial Beast. It's a monster with 4/3/2. So he's not easy one to get rid of. Location, he spawns farthest from you. Not bad. But Jenny Barnes cannot gain resources via card effects, which means she won't benefit from her own ability. Collect one additional resource during upkeep. This is a really tough monster. I don't like it. If I had the choice, I wouldn't take this guy. But does the Green Man Medallion make it worth it? So, it's got 2 wild icons on it. Not bad. It's a trinket. Okay. There's not a lot of trinkets in the game, at least that are worth taking. So having one of these means that you usually have a space for it. As a quick action, spend up to 3 resources and exhaust the medallion. Place those resources on it as offerings. Okay. When you resign or the game ends, for every 6 offering on the Green Man Medallion, reduce the experience cost of the next card you purchase before the next scenario by 1. I don't know about that. When you resign or the game ends, for every 6 offerings on the medallion, reduce the experience cost of the next card you purchase by 1. Unless that can also make a 0 cost card, that's kind of weak. Because you're spending resources which, you want to be spending on cards. I don't know how often you have such an excess of resources, but Jenny Barnes is one of the money makers, so maybe a viable strat to be built there. I don't see it. I don't like it. I wouldn't use it. But the card, the art, I dig. That I use. Roland Banks. I like him a lot because his base ability, after you defeat an enemy, discover a clue. So you always want to be kitting him out with guns. And he just has an influx of clues because he's shooting monsters. But if you ever have a scenario where you don't have a lot of monsters, then he kind of struggles. But he does have pretty good stats. Anywho, his cards. Is this his good card? This is a good card. Roland Banks. Fast. Play only during your turn. Either place 1 clue from the token bank on your location or discover 1 clue at your location. Then you remove this card from the game, which means it won't go into your discard and then reshuffle back into your deck. It's a one and done. So, pretty good. 1 clue. If there's ever a tough clue on the board, that's a way to get rid of it. But his bad card, the Dirge of Reason. Place 2 of your clues on your location. If you can't, Place all of your clues on the location, take one horror, and shuffle this back into your deck. That's pretty bad in more ways than one, because you gotta get rid of your clues, which means you have to either find them again or kill more monsters, which is just wasting your time. But the fact is that if you can't do that and it goes back into your deck, it just keeps happening. Plus, he's got a pretty low horror threshold, which means taking that damage is no bueno. But, I don't know, I forget what his original cards are. His original cards are the Rollin' 38 Special, and Cover Up. I think Cover Up also throws away your clues. So, these cards I don't mind. In fact, I think what I would do with Rollin' is just take all four, right? All the cards are decent and manageable, avoidable. Norman Withers. Let's see, what you got, Norman? This guy, I believe, has not yet been released as a normal card, but I could be wrong there. I know Silas hasn't. But Norman, what do? Play with the top card of your deck revealed. Once per round, you may play the top card of your deck as if it was in your hand at -1 resource. Forced. After a weakness is revealed while on the top of your deck, you have to draw it. His Elder Sign ability is +X. You may swap the top card of your deck with a card of your hand, where X is the resource cost of the top card of your deck. Okay, so if you draw the Elder Sign, you get +X. If you see that the card on the top of your deck is a low cost card and you have one of high cost in your hand, you swap the two, you get the X, boom. Not bad. Interesting mechanic here, especially at the -1 resource. It means that he could be putting out a lot more items onto the board, which ain't bad. He's got 4, 5, 2, 1. He is quite the investigator, but his fighting and his dodge suck, which means he's either going to be using spells or he has to be a support role for someone else. Cool card though. I like his gimmick. But that means I don't know what his original cards are. Livre de Ibon. Livre de Ibon? The Harbinger. Oh, well, we don't know what his original cards are. Split the Angle. This is his good card. As an action, reveal the top card of the encounter deck. As a quick action, exhaust, split the angle, and discard the top card of your deck. Discard the top card of the encounter deck. Unfortunately, you can't use that to get rid of a bad card, or you can't get rid of a weakness on the top of your deck, because if you ever reveal the weakness, it has to go into your hand. But because you know what card is always on the top of your deck, you know whether or not you're getting rid of something that's good, and if you use the action, you can see if the top card on the deck is bad. There are probably other ways to know what the top cards of the encounter deck are, but it's good, it's decent, it's fine. I don't think it's as powerful as it could be, but I don't know what his other cards are. Then his bad card, the Vengeful Hound. Is this a Hound of Tindalos? Yes, it is. Interesting. So, it's a prey. Obviously, he wants to find Norman. While Vengeful Hound is engaged with you, you cannot draw or reveal cards via player card effects. Okay, so you don't get to reveal the top card of your deck, but you still get to draw cards normally. You just can't draw cards with other cards, which is what Seekers are very good at doing. They're good at drawing through their deck. And now, actually, now that I look at this Vengeful Hound, that makes me want to read his book, because Hounds of Tindalos are one of my top Lovecraft monsters. I think they're super cool. Carolyn Fern. I've read a little bit of her book. I've read Huntress to completion, and I've read a little bit of this. It has to do with the Dream World, which is also one of my more favorited Lovecraft locations. because Nyarlathotep is one of my favorite Eldritch gods, and I believe he is connected to the Dreamlands, or more associated with the Dreamlands than others. Anywho, Carolyn Fern. Her card got released recently in, I think, the most recent expansion, the Dreamlands expansion. And that one is an interesting scenario, or campaign rather, and I really want to go through it all once it's all released. But anyways, if you don't know what her card does, as a reaction, after one of your card effects heals horror from an investigator or ally assets, the healed card's controller gains a resource. And then the outer sign, +1, you may heal one horror from an investigator or ally at your location. Kind of hard to trigger because there are only so many cards that heal in the game. But otherwise, her stats are pretty decent. 3, 4, 2, 2, 6, 9, hehehe. And her cards here, her good ones. Foolishness, it's the Foolish Cat of Ulthar. For those of you who know a little bit about the Dreamlands, there is the cat village, and foolishness is a cat in said village. So foolishness enters play with 3 horror on him. Horror on him may be healed as if it was on Carolyn Fern. While foolishness has no horror on him, you get +1 to all skills. So you really have to find cards to heal horror in order to heal foolishness and then have +1 to all your skills. It's a very hard thing to do, but I guess pays off. But I don't know, man, that's hard. I have to look through all the cards to see if there's really a lot of healing cards out there to be able to fix that. Because otherwise, I would say it's not worth it. Her bad card is to fight the Black Wind. Revelation, attached to fight the Black Wind. The card is called To Fight the Black Wind. So attached to fight the Black Wind to the current agenda. Carolyn Fern takes 1 direct horror, which could technically go on foolishness and kill him if you didn't heal anything. But otherwise, at the end of the round, if any amount of horror was assigned to Investigator this round and was not healed, place 1 doom on the attached agenda. Jeez. If any amount of horror was assigned to an Investigator this round and was not healed, place 1 doom on the attached agenda. They really expect you to have a heal deck with Carolyn Fern. I gotta look through these cards again. Is it really possible to just be mad healing? I don't know. If it's possible to build a super cool heal deck, worth. If it's not worth. Maybe the new expansion will introduce a lot of heal cards. I've still been getting the cards. I just haven't been playing as much. Or much at all. Silas. He is a survivor. Survivor decks are pretty cool, although they are challenging in a whole different way. And he does not have his non-alternate card out yet. So what do? Reaction. After you reveal Chaos Token during a skill test you are performing, return a skill you committed to this test to your hand. Cool. That if you can fill out your deck with skill cards, which you can as a survivor. I'm just trying to think if you can fill out your deck with good skill cards to really make use of this. But it is good economy. Actually, you know what? No, yes, this is great because I believe... no, I'm thinking of a different card. I'm thinking of... It's a survivor card that you play and then it says... geez, I can't remember. It says discard a card and you get +2 to the skill, something along those lines, but it doesn't count as a skill card, so that wouldn't combo with this. But anywho, if you get a bunch of skill cards, this is not a bad ability. His Elder Sign effect, +0. You may commit a skill from your discard pile to the test. After the test ends, return the skill to your hand instead of discarding it. Interesting. That's a real cycle. So, and you get double benefit. Skill cards provide the icons, but they also do an ability for being committed. So that's cool. 2/2/4/4. He's a good fighter, but not good at much else. 9/5, sure. Nautical Prowess, skill card. Silas deck only, replacement. If a chaos token with a negative modifier is revealed during the test, either draw one card or this gets 2 wild icons. So if you commit this, you get that negative, you can get 3 wild icons plus those 2. So hopefully you're committing it to one of those 2. And then you actually get the card back if you're using Silas's ability, which you can. That's a why not. Ooh, now this is interesting. His bad card is also a skill card. The skill icons subtract from your skill value instead of adding to it. If the skill test fails, return this skill to your hand. And then forced. If this card is in your hand at the end of your turn, reveal it and take 2 damage. So you really want to put this onto a skill test that you can't fail. Put it on a 0 skill test of some sort. And a lot of people might not know this, but you can do a skill check, like Investigate, for example, even if there are no clues left on your location. If the skill check is still doable, you can do it. It's just whether or not you'll get any or all of the benefits. For example, if there's a location with a shroud value of 1 and no clues on it, and you want to use a flashlight on it, you can bring it down to 0, and then you can perform your test. And if you pass, you would succeed in the investigation, which would allow you to get a clue from that location, or in this case, be considered passing a skill check and therefore can get rid of this card. So that's a way to do that. But I don't think you can fight or evade if there's nothing to fight or evade. But that's one way to do it. And that's an in-depth look at these books. If you think that these cards were super cool and worth it, go ahead and get them. If you think you want to read these books and finish them in an afternoon and, I don't know, either keep them for your own personal collection or pass them around to other people because, you know, again, the fact that these books can be finished in an afternoon is kind of what detracts from their value to me. If it was a proper book, I would probably have a different opinion. But, I mean, they're really short. And, again, they're origin stories. There's not going to be a conclusion, even though, you know, they're interesting, they're cool, they're fine. But I'm not the biggest critic of books, so it's really hard for me to say whether or not these are worth it as novellas. I consume a lot of media and I read a lot of stories and I am a writer myself, but am I inspired by these? No, not really. They're okay. They're interesting. They get me in the mood for a game like this, but they're not particularly Lovecraftian to me. They're very Hollywood. But that's just my opinion. So, if you have been looking for these books, tell me which one you're most interested in. But that's been an in-depth look at these books. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel to support more videos like this one. And you should also go to your local bookstore and ask them why aren't they stocking these books on their shelves, because that'll let YouTube know that I'm good for business. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.